tell me about the work of the Epilepsy Foundation here in the Omaha metro area?
Yes. So Epilepsy Foundation is part of a national organization, but we do a lot of local work. So in Omaha, we have a project called Aaron's Embrace Project, where we fund Embrace Empatica Watch, two watches that are seizure detection
Mm.
monitors. So kind of like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch. Somebody wears it, but you have to have a prescription from your physician and then go through the process of receiving it, and then there's a monthly monitoring fee. But
Mhm.
so that's one project we kind of try to take that burden of the upfront cost of the watch off of families, and that was developed by one of our local board members. Um, Also, we have a couple fundraisers throughout the year. We do a walk in the spring, and we do our biggest fundraiser in the fall in the Blackstone district. But that's to raise funds for advocacy, research, we fund, going to the Capitol and advocating on different legislation that is up. We did seizure safe schools in Nebraska
Mm.
a couple years ago, I believe, at this point. So all school staff are trained in seizure first aid. So those are just a few of the things. We offer resources for families. So if somebody's newly diagnosed at the hospital or their physician, they can refer them to us to just find out more about what a seizure is, what epilepsy is, and just kind of be that extra information for the providers.
For this Epilepsy Awareness Month, what do you most want people to know?
Um, so there are 3.4 million people in the US diagnosed with epilepsy, but still, even with that large number, it's still very stigmatized. There's not a lot of information. People still misunderstand it. They don't know what it is or what to do, even the seizure first aid training. So we want people to understand what epilepsy is, what to do if they see someone having a seizure, and just kind of take some of that negative stigma away from what we are and who we are. Seizures are an event that happens when there's discharges happening in the brain. Things aren't really reading, back and forth, and they're really from an unprovoked place. Like they're not related to a brain tumor or a brain injury. Those seizures happen, with those things. But an unprovoked seizure is kind of what leads us into the epilepsy diagnosis. So once someone has two or more unprovoked seizures, that's when they're diagnosed with epilepsy typically.
Mhm. And what support do you need from our community to be able to support these folks?
Another great question, because I
Mhm.
think the biggest thing is, letting people know who we are, what we do.
Mhm.
Um, I've been really lucky. I've been in this position for about 10 months, so since the beginning of the year, and we've just kind of fallen into place with great families who needed our resources. But I can tell you that um, even some of our board members didn't even know we existed when they needed us the most. When some of their children were diagnosed, they didn't know who to turn to. So the more we can get out who we are, what we do, the resources that we have for people, seizure first aid training, then it kind of takes away from that stigma we were talking about, lets people know where we are and who we are so they can reach out to us for help. People just sharing our name, donating so that we can provide these resources for families, but
Right.
just all in all together, figuring out who we are and that we are part of the community.
Anything else you'd like to share with people listening today?
I can always give a few statistics. So, and I think this is kind of eye opening for people. So, 1 in 10 people will have a seizure in their lifetime. 1 in 26 people will then be diagnosed with epilepsy. So I think sometimes people are like, oh, we don't really know anybody with that diagnosis, or we don't know. But really, look around with the people that you work with. If you go to school, all of these things that there is probably someone who's either had a seizure or diagnosed with epilepsy. So the more, again, breaking down that stigma, the more we can recognize and make those people feel comfortable and share their stories and share their diagnosis and what they need, then I think that's always an important piece.